Hi Dollar Divas, welcome back to my channel. So today I am finally getting to that Chatty get ready with me I have been promising for several months now. There's been several reasons to why I haven't really wanted to film this video. One was because I didn't have a whole lot of answers. And then the last couple weeks I have needed to be able to tell certain people before I went ahead and put it up here on social media, like my boss and things like that. So I hate that it's taken me so long, but I'm very excited that I can kind of share what the last few months have been like for me. So of course I'm going to be using some affordable and bargain makeup from my collection while I kind of just sit and talk about the last couple of months, and a lot of this will pertain to my voice, my job, my vocal condition, a recent vocal injury that I recently sustained, and kind of let you know where I'm at and where we are going forward. So without any further chit chat, because there's going to be a lot of that today, let's just go ahead and get into today's video. So if you're new here, I am a professional singer. It's my full-time job. I do several different shows a week, just all different types of music. And usually I'm off in January and February. That's kind of like my hiatus time. And so I returned back to work in March. So fast forward to April. So I worked all March. April, I started becoming hoarse. I chalked it up to allergies. And it just got kind of increasingly worse. And I just couldn't get any relief. So of course I was thinking, okay, I'm probably getting nodules again. But I was really, really perplexed at why I was getting so hoarse. Like there really just was no good reason. I hadn't been sick or anything like that. So it was a little bit alarming. I did everything I could for my allergies. I mean, because that was the only reason I could come up with. And I'm really pretty good. I know like there's a stigma in singing where you're not using like correct technique and stuff like that. But even at that, like the voice, it's as delicate as it is, it's still pretty resilient, especially if you're using it a lot. It's a muscle. So I digress on that. But so it's just, I was just a little bit perplexed because I was really trying to be very, very careful. And I just had no real good reason as to why I was getting hoarse. So I did everything I could for my allergies. I was trying to take enough medicine, not too much medicine, showering, before I, at the end of the day, before I went to bed, neti potting, steaming, all this stuff. So it brought me to, I'm going to clean up my brows now with some concealer. And I'm going to be using a couple things I haven't used in a while, these Wet n Wild cushion like color correctors. So I'm not going to use concealer, but I'm going to go ahead and use the foundation I'll be using. This is from the Dollar Tree, the Candy Moyo Moisturizing Foundation in medium. I'm just going to clean up my eyebrows. So early May, I went to an ENT because I was starting to get worried. I literally just couldn't sing anymore. I actually had to text my boss and say, I am in actual like physical pain. I can't sing. So I was taken out of my primary gig, which is a Motown show. And I was doing another show kind of part-time, like 3 days a week. This is not doing what I want it to do. I'm going to go into that yellow color corrector. This is from Wet n Wild cushion. I'm going to see if this doesn't do a little bit better. Yeah, that is doing a little bit better. So I then went to the laryngologist and I made an announcement to you guys that I was diagnosed with a very, very early case of vocal nodules, which was not surprising. My voice was hoarse. I had been singing on it for like 3 weeks. That's when your voice is very, very vulnerable when it's hoarse, when it's swollen. And so I wasn't surprised. I was actually just surprised that I hadn't done something worse by the way my voice was sounding and feeling. Now, I've battled nodules before. I had nodules a few years ago that were caused by silent reflux. So a lot of singers have to really keep on any kind of reflux. And usually it's not even like acid reflux. It's literally like just a normal amount of acid that comes up that don't give you any symptoms, but it can hurt your vocal cords. So I had to kind of get that in check. And then when I did, my nodules went away. Nodules, they sound so scary, and they are, but they go away. Like with the right treatment, they literally go away. They're a callus, generally speaking. And there's such a big stigma, but they're not career ending. You just have to rest a bit. So it's really, there's been just this terrible stigma in the singing industry about it. And I mean, you don't want them, but they go away. They're often not permanent. We're gonna use this later to conceal as well. So I'm gonna put on some of my LA Colors eye primer. This of course is from Dollar Tree. So I was ordered a month of vocal rest. So during that time, I did silent videos. I didn't talk in videos. I just did makeup videos where I did my makeup, had music playing, all that kind of thing. Now granted, I'm gonna let you guys know that I never left the stage. I do make my full-time living performing, and I also make money doing YouTube. So these things both depend like heavily on my voice. And also too, I was doing 8 shows a week, and so I just went down to 3. I came out of the Motown show because I'm the only female, and I just, you know, obviously didn't want to do that under vocal rest, you know what I'm saying? So I stayed in the other show that I was doing 3 nights a week. That way I could still make a little bit of money. And I went down to like a bare minimum, like almost hardly any singing, just dancing, blocking, just very, very light singing. Oftentimes complete vocal rest is actually not feasible for like a whole month. They generally, if you can do something called relative vocal rest, my vocal load had been cut down probably by 65, 70%. I wasn't gonna not talk to my husband. The year my husband had a heart attack, I did vocal rest several times, and I just simply refused to like not talk to my husband. So that was a non-negotiable. But like I said, my singing was cut down to probably a 10th. All my hardest stuff was gone. I was just doing some light, low stuff. And of course not talking in my YouTube videos, not doing the Motown show. My vocal load was cut down to where I was really only doing about 30 or 35% of what I normally would. Of course, I didn't go out with friends or talk on the phone or anything like that during this time either. Okay, so I'm gonna be, so my last makeup video, I went into the Profusion Festival palette. Today I'm gonna go into the Mirage palette. Mine is well loved. During that time, I cleaned all my eyeshadow palettes, and I have not used this since. I will have that video linked down below. That was one of my silent videos. But I'm gonna do something fun. My case is just a mess. But this is a wonderful palette. I'm gonna do something fun today. I don't know. I might do a good old fashioned sunset eye. I don't know what I wanna do. I'm gonna just make it up as I go along. So this is where it goes haywire. And this is where it's gonna be kind of new and why I have not had an update for you. I'm gonna go into this shade right here and lay it down all over my lid. So what should have happened is I should have been off for a month, and then I should have been better and back to doing what I was doing. That is not how this has turned out for me, you guys. So about a week and a half, 2 weeks into my rest, I started experiencing vocal spasms. My throat, I experienced trouble breathing, trouble swallowing, and my voice would tighten up, like my whole neck would tighten up. Then I kind of realized that this like part of my range that's normally very, very easy was gone. It was completely gone. Not gone like where it didn't come out when I tried to sing it, but it was really breathy. It was the kind of sound that made your eyes want to tear. It was a voice that in my 40 years singing, I have never heard. I've never heard it under any circumstance that I've ever experienced. I had my falsetto, which is like that really soft kind of high voice, which actually is not conducive to when I've had nodules. When I've had nodules, that goes away. So I knew at this time my nodules were probably actually gone and I was experiencing some other problem. But I didn't have a laryngologist appointment scheduled for like 5 weeks. So I was kind of like, okay, maybe this is just part of the healing. Maybe my voice is adjusting. You know, I don't know, but like I said, it wasn't enough for me to go to the emergency room, but there were days where I was really struggling to just get air. And like I said, swallowing was just a little bit difficult. Like swallowing pills in particular, I would just sometimes have to like really try again, and I would choke on water and things like that. It was just, like I said, not so severe that I needed to go to the emergency room, but something I noticed. Okay, I'm gonna start building this up, and like I said, I might do some kind of a sunset eye because I feel it kind of being typical me. Actually, I think I'm gonna do something maybe pink and purple. Oh gosh, I don't know, y'all. Maybe brick, maybe something brick. I'm gonna go into this shade right here and kind of put that up into my crease. So after a little while, I talked to a friend's mom of mine who was a nurse, and I was really having this was just, I knew it was just not normal for me in my body. You know, they say listen to your body, you know it's normal. I knew this just wasn't normal. There was something. So I talked to my friend's mom who was a nurse. I was thinking, you know, I was like, I think I may have acquired some other kind of like a vocal cord dysfunction, or there might be something going on with my thyroid that's like pressing on my windpipe. I was like, I don't know what's going on. She was like, in all likelihood, I'm just gonna go with that first brush and just kind of really diffuse this. She was like, you've probably acquired some kind of like an asthma. You know, there was a lot, you know, there's a lot of allergens in the air and that kind of thing. So I went to urgent care the next day, and they ordered I told them my symptoms. They ordered me a scan of my lungs, and they prescribed me prednisone and an inhaler, both of which did nothing. My lung x-ray came back clear. So it was not asthma. So I still continued to deal with it. I would have good days and bad days. I would have moments where it was bad, moments where it wasn't so bad. And then one day it kind of started to get better. I all of a sudden stopped struggling to like breathe as much, and my voice started getting a little bit stronger. Okay, now I'm gonna go into, I think maybe this shade right here, this really bright, I don't know, neon orange type shade. I'm gonna go with that same brush. And so, so I started getting better. So again, I'm still just doing the same load that I'm doing, same vocal load. And I noticed that what I was singing was getting stronger. There was a period of time in there where I'm sure everyone was like, what the hell is going on with her voice? I wasn't doing anything challenging, but it was just like this part of my voice that's normally just so strong and there, even like when I'm sick, this part of my range is there. It was just not there. It was just very weak, very, very breathy. I didn't sound like myself at all. So I was like, I feel like I'm getting better. So I was just kind of thinking that, you know, everything was starting to settle out. Like I said, my breathing had gotten better. I probably dealt with that for like a good maybe 2-3 weeks or so. It's hard to say now. This time has been such a blur. Okay, I'm gonna diffuse that out once again. So then actually, so let me rewind. During my worst week with it, I was like, I gotta go back to the laryngologist. So I went back just shy of when my follow-up appointment would have been. Okay, now it's gonna get kind of funky. I'm gonna go into this purple right here. I'm gonna use, I don't know, maybe that brush right there. We'll see how that does. And so I went, by the time I had gone, so it was like a week later that appointment was, in that time is when I started feeling better, but I decided to go to the appointment anyway. Now granted, because my voice was so weird and so many weird things were happening, I just felt like I had done something wrong. I had done something, like not done something good enough or well enough during this time. And so I was a little afraid of her giving me like I think it's called the laryngoscopy. Oh, I'm gonna mess up the word. They basically numb your throat through your nose, and then they put a little tiny thin camera down, and that's how they look at your vocal cords. And so this particular day I was just a little, even though I was feeling better, I was still nervous that like 5 weeks in, my voice was just completely messed up and I just done something wrong. So I go there and I'm actually getting a slightly different doctor. Let me rewind. The first doctor that I saw, that very first initial visit, I was the first appointment of the day, and she was like 45 minutes late to my appointment, and I was like the first person she was gonna see that day. Felt like she was a little scattered and a little rushed, and this is gonna be important later on when I tell you what we found out. So I go in, I explain my symptoms to this lady, and it's a different doctor because I couldn't get in to see the other doctor. And I was fine like that. I didn't really care for her anyway. So I explained my symptoms. I really liked this lady. And I thought, you know, I'm gonna go, this isn't really doing a whole lot today. Let me just keep trying to build it up. So I told her my symptoms, and I was really relieved that she just decided, you know, let's prescribe you Singulair. It was, you know, it's a prescription allergy medicine, which I'd always heard about is really great for singers. So of course I was all about that. I was like, I would love that. Oh yeah, that's starting to build up now. This is gonna be a lot, you guys. I'm sorry. I wanna put some pink in like my crease. I just really, really want to. So I'm gonna go into that like hot pink right there. So I was a little relieved when she didn't feel the need to like look at my vocal cords, but I really wish she did, because we'd have found out what we ended up finding out 6 weeks later. 6 weeks. Now granted, it wouldn't have healed me any quicker, but at least I would have known. So, okay, so 6 weeks goes by, my voice is still getting stronger and better. I now have no problems breathing, swallowing. Also during this time, I had decided to start walking my driveway, getting a little bit of better physical condition, like cardiovascular wise. I have this like breathing machine thing that you like blow into, and it's supposed to just help kind of like, I've got one designed for singers, so it's supposed to help kind of build your diaphragm and your breathing strength. And then I also started doing like vocal strengthening exercises. So my voice was getting increasingly better and better and better and better. But I still lacked endurance to be able to go into the Motown show and be able to carry 12 or 13 Motown songs on my own. You know what I'm saying? I still lacked a little bit of range at like my upper top belt. I still lacked an ability to go from my belt to my falsetto real smooth. And just the breath. I was breathing better like on my own, but I still felt like some of these songs really kind of winded me. So I'm still doing 3 shows a week, just waiting and trying to get strong enough to go back into the Motown show, which would, you know, bring me back to, you know, my 5 days a week working and, you know, my dignity. So now I'm going to do something fun. Now I need some shimmer. So you guys know, I mean, you could probably guess I'm going to go into that. I'm going to go into that gold shade because I don't know any other way to live. So I'm, of course, telling my boss, you know, I think I'm going to be ready here soon. I think I'm going to be ready here soon. I had every intention. I really was thinking I'm going to be getting stronger. I felt like, okay, I felt like any thoughts I had that I had any other kind of vocal cord dysfunction going on. There's all kinds of things that happen that don't have anything to do with like actual, like, you can't cause it yourself. Things just sometimes happen, like the muscles go crazy or whatnot. More about that later. So I was feeling good that my voice is just, it's just taking time. It's just gonna get stronger. It's just, you know, I'm getting there. So I go to my follow-up appointment. Ooh, that is so pretty. I'm so sorry about this look, you guys. This is like a lot, I know. It's a lot. And so, y'all, like, this is where they say, like, be an advocate for yourself. I go in and I told the laryngologist, she's like, how you doing? I said, I'm sounding better. I'm feeling better, you know. And she was like, great, I want to see you in 6 months. I was like, whoa. Like, I want you to look at my vocal cords. Like, I want to look, I was like, I said, are we, and I didn't say it just quite like that. I was like, are we going to look at my cords? And she was like, we can. I was like, I think we should, you know, like, I think we should. And so she looked and she was like, oh, she's like, I'm seeing something. And she was like, let me get the other doctor in here to see if he's seeing what I'm seeing. And so what she was seeing was that my right vocal cord was paralyzed, not moving. So she got this other doctor in, and he confirmed that that's what we were seeing. And it makes total sense, and I'm so angry, I'm angry at myself, and I'm angry at her, because when I went in for my follow-up appointment, we'd have seen that 6 weeks earlier, and my symptoms were classic. They were classic symptoms of vocal cord paralysis, and I feel like as an ENT, she should have known that. She should have wanted to have taken a look. Knowing my breathing problems, my throat clenching up, and all these, my swallowing issues, all this stuff could have been a symptom of vocal cord paralysis or some other vocal cord dysfunction. Your vocal cords can literally make it where you can't breathe. They are what close and open so that your food doesn't go down your windpipe. They're more than just a singing tool, you know what I'm saying? She should have wanted to have checked. But like I said, I have to be equally as angry at myself for not requesting it, for being too chicken to, you know, see what was going on. Anyways, I digress. Okay, so we're gonna come back to the eyes. Yeah, this is a lot going on. Sometimes I do these chatty get ready with me's and I get a little carried away with my makeup, but that's okay. So we're gonna come back to the eyes. I know this look is a lot. I promise it will work out as it always does. I've still got more story time, so I'm gonna go ahead and add some mascara, some liner, my lashes, and we'll come back and get working on complexion products. I will be right back. Okay, lashes are on, and we'll come back and finish up the eyes, but we're gonna move on to the face. And I'm gonna go ahead and go under my eyes with the Wet n Wild Cushion Color Corrector in yellow before I put my foundation on. So vocal cord paralysis is, again, it's caused by something, and it can be, you know, no cause that they can find, or it can be something potentially serious. So it seems that mine is unilateral, which means it's one side, not both sides, which is a little less, it's more common and less serious than bilateral, where it's on both sides. And it actually can be considered a disability because it can impact your breathing and talking and stuff like that. Oftentimes, most oftentimes, it's caused when you have surgery in or around the area, like on your neck, or like if you have like a thyroid nodule that's been removed or something like that. I'm gonna go in with the Candy Moyo foundation. I'm gonna use my Sassy Chic foundation brush. This is in medium. It can also be caused by neurological conditions. It can also be caused by tumors, whether benign or not, you know, compressing on the nerve or somewhere in the brain. It can also be caused by like thyroid issues. So the doctor immediately ordered a thyroid ultrasound and a CT scan from here down. So, you know, nothing moves fast in the medical industry. It was a week later. This was actually not too bad. A week later, I got my CT scan, which it was my first ever CT scan. I'd never gotten a CT scan. And so I'd never had an IV before. I needed an IV with, you know, the iodine and stuff like that. So that was all first. I had an ultrasound before, actually earlier in the year, my first ultrasound, when I went for a mammogram. I'll tell you about that in a different video. But so I did both those things. A week later, I went back to the laryngologist, and he said that my results, for all intents and purposes, everything came out normal. And he also decided to look at my vocal cords, because there was a little bit of a hope that perhaps when we looked at it the first time, that maybe it was starting to come back. But when he looked at my vocal cords like 2 weeks later, it was still very much paralyzed. And in his words, and I quote, he said, my vocal cord is all the way over in left field, which means it's doing nothing. So this is, I think, from Temu. It's the ICVC Oil Control and Makeup Powder. And I'm just gonna go in with like a fluffy brush. So when I was there, he said, we have to figure out what's causing this. And I even asked him, because, you know, I said, I have two questions. I said, one, because I'm a woman, and the other, because I'm a singer. I said, as a woman, you know, sometimes people are like, it's in your head, you know, you're causing this with stress, you know, and it had been a stressful year, you know, my brother passing, and my vocal issues were causing me great distress. I was like, is this a symptom of my mind? Is this something that's like, could be psychosomatic? He said, no. And I said, okay. I said, because I'm a singer, is this something that I could have caused by singing or overusing my voice? Is this something I could have caused? And he said, no. He said, we do have to find out why, because there can be a serious cause. I'm gonna go in with the LA Colors Shimmer Bronzer. It says Shimmer Bronzer, it's actually matte, but when I purchased it, it had like a spray on the front. I think this was from Family Dollar or Dollar General. So at that visit, he ordered an MRI of my head. Because if we can find a cause, it will be something up here. It'll either be, you know, it's most likely not. In all likelihood, this is idiopathic. They'll never figure out why. But if it is being caused by something they can find, in all likelihood, it's either going to be either, you know, a tumor. It could be benign, like, you know, at the base of my skull or somewhere in my brain. And I'm not saying this to scare anybody. Like I said, it's in all likelihood not that. Or it could be a neurological condition like MS or ALS or, you know, Parkinson's. There's all kinds of things, or some kind of a nerve damage going on, you know. So now I do that a week from tomorrow as I sit here. So then a week from Tuesday, I go to the hospital, and they're gonna like really get and that's where like they have like the better equipment and stuff like that. It's in the city, so this is doing a really nice effect. I'm really liking it. It's very, very warm, but it comes across nice on my skin. So this is a blush I haven't used in a while. This is from my IONI. This is the Gemini Peach Blush. This is from an older collection. It's kind of a shimmery. It's got a little bit of a gold undertone. It's very reminiscent of the NARS Orgasm X. So I'm gonna do those two appointments back to back. And then it's like not until like 3 weeks later that I go back to the ENT. Now, no news is good news, I'm assuming. So as long as there's nothing super alarming that needs like immediate attention on my MRI, I will have to wait until that appointment to kind of hear what's going on, like when I go to, and they look at my cords through like with a better system. I think they can like look at it on a screen and really get a better idea of things. But yeah, as long as nothing like, I would assume as long as there's nothing super alarming on the MRI. I'm sure if there is something alarming on the MRI, they'll call me in sooner. But I'm not anticipating that being the case. So there's a lot of information I won't have till like the end of September. Now I'm gonna go in with some highlighter, and this is from the IONI Lunar Zodiac collection. This is the highlight stick in Golden Wheat. I'm just gonna put some on the back of my hand and use a stippling brush. So in the meantime, like I said, my voice has gotten better. There's a lot that I can do. We've ruled out, you know, some other serious conditions, which is great. So we're either zoning in on what's causing it or we'll never know. In the meantime, I'm actually thinking of picking up another show at our theater that would kind of put me working 5 days a week. It would just be luckily like singing backup vocals, which is something that I can do. Like I said, I just can't really carry an entire show of Motown music on my own because, you know, you're really gonna be able to sing like when you do that type of music. And I can sing, but I can't currently sing at the moment, if that makes any sense. You know, I'm just not really up to it right now. Okay, so the face stuff is done. We're gonna move back and add finishing touches to the eyes. So I'm gonna, under my brow bone, I'm just gonna pop some of this first shade we put on. So I do feel like the first two laryngologists, you know, the second one got there eventually, but I have much more faith in the gentleman that I am seeing now for my care. Like I said, I just feel better about it. So I feel very good that I'll get the care I need. I'm very confident it's nothing serious causing it. I'm very confident that it's just something that has happened. So I'm gonna line my waterline. This is old. I'm gonna probably need to actually kind of get rid of this. I've had this for a long while. But it's the Maybelline Lasting Drama Matte Eye Pencil. It really is. I literally just have like a little sliver of it left. And so I'm just gonna put this in on my waterline. So, you know, I finally had to kind of let go of the idea that until the paralysis goes away or I maybe get some voice therapy. So like a lot of times with like vocal paralysis, they won't do anything like surgical for like a year because often it comes back within that time, usually 6 months to a year. So it's not usually until about at least the year mark where they might do some stuff. They can, you know, of course, perform a couple different surgeries. Like they can fill out they can do some nerve surgeries. They can fill it out, you know, put like an implant in it. They can also do like injections. Those are a lot less, I think, invasive. And then you can also do voice therapy, which, like I said, I've kind of been doing on my own. So I don't really know, depending on what's going on, what the treatment will be. Like I said, this could be opening up an entire can of worms. You know, I could find out some unfavorable news. Like I said, I'm not anticipating that, but I could. So I'm gonna go underneath my eyes with this purple shade right here. So like I said, it's the kind of thing where if it does end up being something more serious, I may have never found out if I wasn't a singer, honestly. You know, if it does, God forbid, end up being something that needed, you know, I needed to find out. I mean, I have being a singer to thank for it because, I don't know, I may have just not have gotten it, you know, if my livelihood didn't depend on it. I may not have ever gotten it checked out. So if it is something more serious, I mean, I have been led to figure out what it is because otherwise I may not have known. So I'm gonna go into my inner corner and I think I'm gonna go ahead and use that beautiful gold shade that I love so much. So in the meantime, you know, like I said, I could just wake up one day and my voice could just be fully back one day. You know, I didn't knowingly, if it is caused by like a virus or like COVID or something like that I had earlier in the year, I can't recall a time where I felt like I had a virus. But sometimes you can get a virus and it manifests in a way that's not something that you really know. So, you know, that is the hope that that's what caused it. That would be like the best case scenario. Okay, so I would say that the eyes are done, and now we're gonna finish off with the lips. I'm just gonna go pretty simple. I'm gonna go in with the IONI lip pencil. This is in Mombassa Spice. And then I've got this, I found this at the Dollar Tree a couple of years ago. I actually found both shades that they have. It's the e.l.f. Retro Paradise Dream On Lip Gloss. This is in Electric Lemonade. I'm got the pink one as well. I think it's like daiquiri something or other. But I think the biggest thing I will have learned through this entire thing, y'all, is, and that you hear it, you know, and also often you don't have to practice it, or you think that's other people and not me, how you really have to be an advocate for your own health. You cannot assume that a doctor, and I have the utmost respect for doctors and people in the medical industry because I'm not capable of doing it. And they're human, you know, they do the best they can. You know, sometimes you really just do have to speak up. I think this is going to be a very important lesson here coming up. Now, I just don't think I'm going to be, never going to be the same patient again. That is definitely for sure. This has definitely been very eye-opening. If I had gone with my gut feeling early on, you know, way back in May, I remember telling my husband, I was like, I think I've acquired some other kind of dysfunction of my voice. But yeah, if I'd gone with my gut feeling was right, that something else was wrong. This was just not recovery from nodules. And also too, that first doctor, one thing I will never fully know, but I can ask next time I go in. I forgot to ask him last time I went in, but the question that I have is that first doctor, because this can come on kind of gradual, if she was distracted or whatnot because she was, you know, had a rough morning or something, like I said, could she have seen, was she perhaps just seeing, I'm a big believer that the nodules were a symptom of this before it was perhaps visible. Either that or it was just slightly visible, and if she looked closer, she might have seen that my vocal cord was starting to not act, you know, move right. If she had maybe looked closer, I don't know. I do think I just go back and remembering the hoarseness I was experiencing, thinking this isn't right. There's no good reason for this. So I feel like it had kind of slowly come on. Then I happened to go to the laryngologist, and they saw a symptom of my vocal cords not acting right, which was the nodules. Then I'm put on rest, which actually makes, here's the crazy thing, is vocal rest actually makes vocal paralysis worse. Like, you actually need to use your voice and get your, you know, your other cord going again, and get them, you know, stronger. Like, it's, you know, it does make me wonder that had that doctor maybe been maybe a little less distracted, maybe she would have seen something that was a little bit more subtle. I don't know. Either that or I just went to the doctor too soon, which, you know, again, it was just me trying to be a little bit more proactive this time. But either way, that is what's going on. I have unilateral vocal cord paralysis. That has been what is going on. I know it's a lot. It's a lot. But anyways, thank you guys so much for always being on this journey with me. I hope that explains some things. I hope it explains why I haven't talked about it as quick as I would have liked. I hope it explains how I've sounded at times. I hope it explains why I sound better now. Of course, if you have any questions, I'm not a doctor, so I can only go based on like my experience and my thoughts. But yeah, also let me know. I know, like I said, a lot of you probably have had this happen because, you know, I know as we get older, like things happen with our, you know, thyroid, and you may have had surgery and this happened to you, or a neck surgery or a neck trauma or something. Definitely share any of these experiences. If you've had this condition before, you know, that's always nice to talk to people that have been through it as well. The unfortunate thing is, you know, a lot of times this happens to people that don't sing. I just happen to be a singer, you know, lucky me. But anyways, as always, I will persevere. So yeah, we got our makeup look, and it turned out, I promised it would, and it almost always does. Anyways, thanks for listening to my story, and I will keep you updated with information as it happens. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.